Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning, whether you are here in person for our Sunday meditation or if you're joining us from the comfort of your homes. Welcome. Today I'm going to be doing a meditation based on The Laws of Spirit by Dan Millman. So it's really a bunch of parables in the book, which I had picked up long before ever hearing the word science of mind, and then picked it up again all these years later and couldn't believe how much it jived with our teaching. I've just picked a story out of that book and we'll meditate on that today, followed by a music meditation after the reading. So I invite you in this moment now to just close your outer eyes and fully arrive where you are now. And the exact spot you're in is exactly where you're meant to be. Taking a deep breath in, filling your lungs, and exhale. Another deep breath in. Feel your body relax. Feel the chair or wherever you are on the floor. Feel that supporting you. Relax your body. Be here now. So the story, we're sort of starting at the middle here, but Dan Millman has been going for a hike in the mountains near his home, and he stumbles upon a very old, many times reincarnated sage who is living in this little hut. And she decides to teach him some of the spiritual laws using nature. It's now the morning after they had spent a whole day together. She had taught him quite a few things, and now it's the next day, and he's waking up and discovering that she's not there. Then, as I scanned the woods, I caught sight of her, standing in the quiet morning shadows next to 3 deer, a doe and 2 fawns. In that moment, she seemed one of them, a deer in human form, and I felt like an outsider. They turned at the same time and saw me. The deer stepped into the deeper cover of the trees and disappeared as the sage approached me. There's something I'd like to show you, she said, giving me a handful of season's early blackberries. The deer like them, but you may find them bitter. She was right. Still, they satisfied my hunger and filled me with a sense of lightness and vitality. Then we were off on a morning hike, stopping only to drink with cupped hands from a small waterfall. I followed her stride for stride onto a small grassy knoll where she grew a colorful field of flowers in reds, yellows, and dazzling blues. Watching blossoms open to the morning light reminds me of the law of faith, said the sage. Is this law about religion? I asked. Faith doesn't require a belief in an external God, only a belief in flowers, she said, smiling. But if one appreciates flowers, one must certainly appreciate God, not as a belief, but as a feeling of wonder and mystery. The law of faith is about trusting the inherent love and intelligence working through you and all creation. Well, I can't honestly say I trust everyone, he said. The sage laughed. Faith is not blind. We all know of people who are dishonest or dangerous, and so we need to be strong and vigilant in this world. That's why an Arab sage once offered the reminder, trust in Allah, but tie your camel. Practicing the law of faith doesn't mean trusting every person to do the right thing. It has a higher, more transcendent meaning. Faith is the recognition that Spirit works in, as, and through each and all of us, through every person and every circumstance. Faith is also an attitude that whatever happens serves a higher good, despite appearances to the contrary. Faith is one of the greatest stretches, one of the greatest leaps a human being can take, because all you have to go on is, well, faith. And then Dan said, so how do I make that leap? The sage sat down, settling like a leaf on the grassy slope, and asked me, what if you suddenly knew with certainty that a higher intelligence was working through you and everyone else for the highest good of humanity? That there is indeed a purpose for every pleasure and every hardship? And Dan said, if I knew that, it would make a difference. Well, the law of faith doesn't require you to believe this, traveler, but it guides you to live your life as if this were true. In other words, on faith. And as you live in the light of this law, it will transform your perception and experience of the world. You'll begin to see every difficulty as a test in order to instruct you. You'll find lessons and opportunities in every challenge. And Dan said, are you suggesting I value faith over reason? And she laughed, apparently finding my comment amusing. Faith is not the opposite of reason. Applying the law of faith is one of the most practical, reasonable, constructive things you can do to live an inspired life. Reaching out to touch one of the flower petals, she added, as one of nature's most delicate and vulnerable life forms, a flower's life is short and tenuous. A careless footfall, a dry winter, or pounding rain can make a life and death difference to a delicate blossom. And yet, each morning it opens wide. Flowers have much to teach us about faith. When you cultivate the garden of faith in your own life, you will, like this flower, come alive in a new way. I looked down and touched the delicate blossom, so soft and vulnerable. For the first time, I realized that I didn't even have the faith of a flower. The sage's next words responded precisely to my innermost feelings. Faith is not a commodity that you own or possess, she said. It's the divine order that pervades all things, the light behind your eyes, the loving and mysterious intelligence that emanates from the center of creation. To begin, listen to the intuitive wisdom of your heart, where spirit speaks. So many people rely on books, teachers, scientists, physics, oracles, or others to advise or direct them or to validate their view. But aren't I relying on your advice and direction? A light drizzle began to fall, turning to a downpour. The sage led me under the cover of overhanging branches as she responded. Teachers and books have their value, and sources of guidance and inspiration may enter your life in different forms. But never forget that the treasure is already inside you. Others cannot give you anything you don't already have. They can only provide keys to your own inner wealth. So listen well to those who speak from experience and embrace wisdom where you find it. But always weigh external guidance against the wisdom of your own heart. And Dan said, well, there are times I've trusted myself and made a decision and been completely wrong. The sage said, you may choose one path over another, then meet with great hardship and difficulty as a result of that decision. Does that necessarily mean it was the wrong choice in terms of your highest good and learning? Well, no, I guess not. Faith is assuming that you always make the right choice. Self trust develops naturally from your own direct experience. You learn to trust your body's instincts, your heart's intuition, and your mind's ability to access universal intelligence. Do you see how the water appears to pour out of the rocks? Yet you know that the water comes not from the rocks, but through them, that the water source is above. Like water, higher wisdom doesn't come as much from your brain as through it. You aren't a vessel to be filled with facts. You're more like a radio receiver attuned to the universal intelligence operating throughout creation. All you have to do is listen and trust. Faith means living with uncertainty, traveler, feeling your way through life, letting your heart guide you like a lantern in the dark. There is no absolute security except an absolute faith. This doesn't mean that all circumstances will go your way or that divine justice is operating every time you injure or heal yourself. All sorts of events, both beautiful and terrible, can happen in this world. Our small mind cannot always see the bigger picture or know what is for our highest good. So, despite the confusion and insecurity of life, when you can learn to live on faith like the flower, trusting spirit working according to a higher will beyond the reach of your mind, you'll see spirit operating everywhere and everyone and everything. When I'm able to access such inner wisdom, will I be guided like you and avoid making so many mistakes? And she laughed. A few weeks ago, I tripped and fell halfway down the hill. Really? Yes, really. But while I was lying there, I found a beautiful stone I would have missed had I not fallen. So you see, faith is not about being infallible and always having everything go your way. Faith involves the willingness to stretch yourself, make mistakes, and learn from them. In other words, to trust the process of your life. The more you trust spirit in this way, the more you will work with it directly as a living force in your life. As the sage finished speaking, the rain stopped. Stepping out from under some trees into the warm sunlight, I felt an extraordinary sense of calm and well being. In that moment, I knew that despite the challenges and tests confronting humanity, our world was in the hands of spirit, unfolding like a flower toward the light. as we begin to bring our attention back into the density of our bodies, as we approach this week, I invite you to tune in to the dial that is yours, specifically yours, individually yours, your birthright. As spirit moves through each and every one of us, we have our own specific way of being with the spirit that we are, to lean into the wisdom that you already are, to allow yourself to trust your own wisdom, to trust your own feeling, your own gut, and to know that spirit is moving through every situation you've ever been in and ever will be in, to begin to trust that it's all for the greater good. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I hope that you'll stay tuned for our service at 10:15. Thank you.
Ooh, that's nice. Welcome to the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living. Whether you are here at 4 Points by Sheridan or you've invited us into your homes today, thank you very much for joining us. It's always wonderful to be able to have just the faces out there and to just be able to connect with the community in such a wonderful way. So thank you very much for being here. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Dusty Rippelmeyer, and I have the honor and the privilege of being this community's spiritual director. We are part of a larger organization called Centers for Spiritual Living. And at Centers for Spiritual Living, we believe that there is one power and presence, one creative energy that is back of everything that there is. We believe that creative energy created each and every single one of us in its image and likeness. And because of that, we too have this power to create, and in fact have been creating our lives from the very beginning, whether we were conscious of it or not. And so what we do is we come together on Sundays and Wednesdays on Zoom and for social events and concerts and all different kinds of things like that, to really walk this path together, to support each other as we continue to create lives that we absolutely love to live and contribute to creating a world that works for everyone. So we're very grateful that you have joined us this morning. I have a couple of announcements, and the first one is on behalf of the Outreach Ministry. The Outreach Ministry's goal is to assist the underserved in our community. And so we are starting a new campaign, and that is going to be for an organization called Oak City Cares. And Oak City Cares is a hub for for connecting individuals and families who are in risk of or are experiencing homelessness to coordinate services for them. We're collecting travel size hygiene products such as body wash, bar soap, shampoos, deodorant, toothpaste, toothbrushes, and socks. Please bring your items to the center on Sunday, and we will be collecting the items beginning next week all the way through the end of April. So you can kind of make your plans about when you'll bring in your items, and then we'll just be collecting them here and then taking them over altogether from our community. And I thank you very much ahead of time for that. There is a sheet on the tables out front that has a list of everything that they are collecting. So please grab one of those on your way out if you're interested. If you're out there in electronic land and you would like for me to send you that list, please send me an email and I will be sure to get that to you. So thank you all so very much ahead of time. And the second is announcement is that I apologize for being a little bit late, a little bit behind the eight ball, but right, better late than never in recognizing National Women's History Month. The National Women's History Alliance has announced the theme for 2023, and the theme is celebrating women who tell our stories. And so throughout this month, and actually they say throughout 2023, the National Women's History Alliance encourages recognition of women, past and present, who have been active in all forms of media. The timely theme honors women in every community who have devoted their lives and talents to producing art, pursuing truth, and reflecting the human condition decade after decade. From the earliest storytellers through pioneering journalists, or our experiences have been captured by a wide variety of artists and teachers. These include authors, songwriters, scholars, playwrights, performers, and grandmothers throughout time. Women have long been instrumental in passing on our heritage in the world and in print, in word and in print, to communicate the lessons of those who have come before us. Women's stories and the larger human story expand our understanding and strengthen our connections with each other. Molly McCook says, women should be celebrated every day. I concur. But a month dedicated to female empowerment is extremely special. It doesn't just honor the iconic women who have changed history, but encourages new generations to dream big and to know that anything is possible. Cron Moore says, Women's History Month pays homage to the trailblazers before us, builds hope and inspiration to us, and offers an example of pride and excellence for younger generations. And lastly, Elaine Welteroth, an American journalist, says, Friends, sisters, mothers, professors, when women affirm women, it unlocks our power. It gives us permission to shine together. So, in this moment, I just invite everyone to reach out your hands with our heartfelt gratitude, sending it out to all of the women storytellers, past, present, and future. Thank you so very much for who you are and all that you have done, all that you are currently doing, and all that you will do in the future. We see you, we celebrate you, we know who you really are, and we love you. Thank you so very much. Speaking of thank you very much to the lovely Michelle Love for her beautiful meditation, which expanded the container that our service will unfold within. Thank you very much, Michelle. And speaking of Michelle, please welcome her back to the pulpit. Michelle Love.
Thank you, Dusty. Good morning, everyone. Everyone here, good morning to everyone at home. Our theme for the year 2023 is Living Out Loud, and our theme for the month of March is Cultivating Authenticity. Reverend Dusty's talk title is No Approval Needed. Looking forward to that. I'm now going to read this community's purpose statement. This is our reason for being here. Our purpose is to inspire, educate, and empower individuals to experience themselves as unique and individualized expressions of God, the love intelligence that governs the universe. We are committed to not merely a theoretical understanding of our oneness and unity with God, but to consciously practice this truth in our everyday lives. Through celebration, service, study, and fellowship, we are committed to the transformation of our personal lives into being a powerful and beneficial presence on the planet. With the energy of unconditional love, simply, we are here for God. And so it is. I now invite you to close your outer eyes, turning within, open your heart and mind, and allow the healing sounds of the crystal bowls to simply wash over you.
attention back into your bodies and back into the room and feel the chair that supports you. And then when you're ready, just open your beautiful eyes. The Triangle Center for Spiritual Living honors the diversity and threads of truth that runs through all spiritual paths, as represented by our ceremony today. Please welcome Brandon and Melina, who have so graciously volunteered to be part of our ceremony today. Christianity is the path of Christ consciousness, love, and forgiveness. Buddhism is the path of compassion and understanding. Judaism is the ethical path of living by sacred law. And Baha'i is the path of unity and peace. Islam is the path of submission to the will of God, the highest calling. Confucianism is the path of deliberate tradition. Taoism is the natural way, the path of the ultimate reality. And Native American practice and shamanic traditions are the path of primal spirituality. Shintoism is the path of tribal ancestry. Hinduism is the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. Science of mind and spirit is the path of divine principle of love and law. And the heart represents the one love that resides at the center of all people and all beings everywhere, with no exceptions. May peace prevail on earth through the followers of all paths. Thank you, Brandon. And so it is. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Melina. And at this time, if you can close your outer eyes and turn within and open your eyes wide to the truth that God is a state of being and energy that is beyond words, a spark of divine knowing, a creation, a energy, a unconditional love. As I know that this is part of who I am, I know that this is also a living spark in all people right here in this room, all people watching on TV, and actually all people everywhere. And from this place of unity, from this place of oneness and wholeness and perfection, I speak a blessing on our service here today. That I am so grateful and speak a blessing on Reverend Dusty as she does her speech today and channels the truth from her heart and soul. And may us all be open and hear the message. And as we take this message, not just today, but into all our interactions, into all of our things that we do, activities, and the way we think, may we take this message and the truth of God in everything that we do. I speak a blessing on all the people that came today to prepare this space, that prepared the room and the candles just for our time here together. Thank you. I bless our musicians today, Miles and Letha Costin, who are going to bless us with their talent and music today. So I'm so grateful for each one of us for being here, willingness, open, and vulnerable. And together we anchor it into the soul of the universe by saying, and so it is. So it is. So the reading for today is from the book called Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown. She says, wholehearted living is about engaging from our lives from a place of worthiness. It means cultivating the courage, compassion, and connection to wake in the morning and think no matter what gets done, and also no matter how much is left undone, I am enough. It is going to bed at night and thinking, yes, I am imperfect and vulnerable and sometimes afraid, and that doesn't change the truth that I am also brave and worthy of love and belonging. And so at this time, I introduce you to Miles and Letha Costin.
It's the sky that's always colored blue, storms and clouds that are passing through. But I get distracted from the truth. They say faith, the size of a tiny seed, can make a mountain get up and leave. Sometimes I find it hard to believe. In a moment of remembering who I am and why I'm here, chaos and confusion fades away and disappears. The truth beyond the barriers and thoughts that cloud my mind. Everything is infinite, nothing's locked in time. Seeds will sprout where they are sown. We will gather what we've grown. Sometimes I feel alone. As close as the air I breathe, waves don't separate themselves from the sea. I think that's how we're meant to be. In a moment of remembering who I am and why I'm here, chaos and confusion fades away and disappears. The truth beyond the barriers, thoughts that cloud my mind. Everything is infinite, nothing's locked in time. It's in the truth beyond the barriers, thoughts that cloud my mind. Everything is infinite, nothing's locked in time.
Inspiration for the message today. Welcome to anyone who has just joined us. Leo Babauta tells a story about a little boy in an article called The Universal Narrative. Now, apparently, this little boy was told by his father from a very young age on that he wasn't good enough. He was not told this in so many words, but really through the actions of the father by criticizing him, yelling at him, hitting him, and ultimately leaving him. The boy grew up into a man knowing that he was unworthy of praise, unworthy of success, unworthy of love. As an adult, the boy got a job, but didn't really think that he was good enough to do the job well. And so he faked it, deeply afraid every single day that he would be found out and mocked and ultimately fired. He tried to hide. He tried not to put himself in the spotlight. He thought that maybe by doing so, no one would see his unworthiness. He held himself back, careful not to do anything in which he might fall short, in which he might fail. He put off taking on the tough tasks, and he really formed a long habit of procrastination. Now, this came to rule his life, affecting his health, affecting his finances, and affecting his relationships. The boy, now that he was an adult, got into a couple of long-term relationships, hoping to find someone that would make him happy. He didn't believe that he could make himself happy, or that he could make anybody else happy, or that he could get them to love the real him, right? So he thought that maybe, just maybe, if he was extra special nice to them and only showed them the really good parts of himself, that they would think that he was lovable. Because he could only show them certain parts of himself, the parts that he thought would win himself some love, that he was never truly honest. And he could never truly find intimacy. On top of that, he was always ready for them to find out how bad he really was and to leave him. So, in fact, more often than not, he would leave them before they had a chance to leave him. Or if he didn't leave them, he was really only halfway into the relationship, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, ready to leave, only partially committed. Now, this was true of every friendship and of every work relationship that he was in. He was never fully committed, never fully honest, because he was afraid to show his true self to anyone. On one hand, he was anxious that others might know how truly unworthy he was. And on the other hand, he was always trying to prove his worthiness, even though he didn't even believe in it. This is a pretty universal narrative. It could have been somebody of any gender identity, of any race, of any culture, of any religion, or of any sexual preference. Within the story, each of us may have heard bits and pieces of our own individual narratives, of our own stories, seen the twists and turns of our own paths, or perhaps recognized our own identical choices and the similar masks that perhaps we have worn throughout our lifetimes. Now, this month, our theme is cultivating authenticity, and there's no way to talk about authenticity without talking about the elephant in the room, the feelings of shame and unworthiness. Unworthiness is really defined as insufficient in worth. It's undeserving, unworthy of consideration, lacking merit or value, not being particularly suitable for pretty much anything. Many of us are walking around in a trance of unworthiness. It's a gnawing feeling that we are deeply flawed, that we're not worthy of love or of success or of praise or of anything, really. Unworthy of putting our work out there into the world, unworthy of leading a team or a community, unworthy of really creating something that's meaningful. Unworthiness says that we're not good enough, that we're not good enough to write the book that's in our heart to write, or to change our diet, or to start exercising, or to sell our art, or to facilitate a class, or to teach a skill, or to follow our lifelong dreams. Shame is also a universal experience in our humanness. It's a deeply distressing, very uncomfortable feeling, which typically arises when we believe that we have done something wrong, when we believe that we have made a mistake. It involves feelings of inadequacy or really negative self evaluation or self consciousness in response to our perceived error. Brene Brown describes shame as that the intensely painful feeling or experience of believing that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of love and belonging. Something we've experienced, done, or failed to do makes us unworthy of connection. So in other words, it's a fear of being unlovable that convinces us that if we just work a little bit harder, or we change ourselves in some way or another, or if we keep the parts hidden of ourselves that we don't want anybody to see, then maybe when we have finally become enough, that we will be worthy of deep connections with other people in our lives. Guilt and shame are closely related in that each occurs after we believe that we have done something wrong, after we have done some particular kind of, made some particular kind of mistake. Now, perhaps in both of them, in either case, we're going to feel some remorse. However, guilt is feeling bad about our actions, and shame is feeling bad about ourselves. Brene Brown differentiates the two by saying that guilt says, I did something bad, while shame says, I am bad. In other words, guilt is all about something that we've done, and shame is about who we are. In shame, we feel that ourselves, not just our actions, but ourselves, the whole of who we are, is flawed. Feelings of unworthiness and shame are surprisingly common, really very surprisingly common, and as we can probably guess, very destructive in our lives. They're most often caused by our upbringing, which could be a combination of how our parents or other caregivers treated us and or the cultural norms that we were exposed to as we were growing up. The little boy, right? The little boy in the story was basically told outright by his very demanding, disapproving, and overly critical father that he was not good enough. Other sources could be uninvolved or distant or very preoccupied parents or caregivers, parents who frequently really compare siblings one to the other or are really overly demonstrative about the performances that their children do over and above just the effort of them doing it themselves. How well did they do it? How much did they achieve? So they're very good at really letting them know how well they've done when they've achieved something, rather than just for the effort of being there and doing it, right? It could even be overly protective parents who leave their children unprepared for the challenges of adulthood. It could be too much unhealthy conflict in the home. Children experiences of taunting or bullying, school setbacks or failures, societal expectations and pressures, or trauma and abuse. Some common signs of the trance of unworthiness or shame can include that really reoccurring feeling that we are flawed, that there is something inherently wrong with us. It could be an overactive inner critic, that voice in our head that is very critical of who we are, that voice that we really can't calm. It could be evidence of really a divided life in which our words and our actions don't match what we think about ourselves. It could be addictions to alcohol or food or working too much or sex or drugs, for example. It could be perpetual busyness, preoccupation with achievement, avoidance of being and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable with each other. It could be the restless pursuit of self improvement fueled by feelings of not being enough. It could be badgering ourselves for mistakes that we've made. It could be excessive sensitivity to all forms of criticism. It could be playing safe for so that you don't risk being a failure. It could be reluctance to ask for what we need or want. It could be people pleasing, straight up people pleasing, or it could be self-hatred. Take a breath, everybody. Take a breath. I said it was common for a whole bunch of different reasons. It's a common narrative in our human experience. Take another breath. While some of us might not be feeling so good in this moment, the only way to move forward is through awareness. Awareness. Greg Van Norik says the trance of unworthiness is insidious. Its presence in our lives can go unnoticed for years or even decades because it operates subconsciously. Its negative effects, while gradual, can accumulate mightily over time, compounding into a mental black hole. It is time to break the trance. It is time to break the trance. And it begins with, as so many things do, as we've said so many times here, with our awareness. So I have 3 ideas for us this morning. The first is to recognize what is standing in the way. Now, Ernest Holmes writes that what stands in the way between us and our good is a thing of thought. Right? It's a thing of thought. And one of the major thoughts that stands in our way of our good, that stands in our way of us living our lives out loud, is that we doubt our worth. We doubt our worth. And that sense of unworthiness or shame keeps us from living authentically. It keeps us from really connecting deeply with each other, and it stops us from being able to be in alignment with our highest self, that self with a capital S. The first thing to remember is that we live our lives from the inside out, and that every I am statement we make is a prayer in and of itself. If our thoughts are only and always about not being good enough, then what shows up in our experience of life are opportunities to solidify that belief. Opportunities for us to say to ourselves and the world, see, I told you I'm not good enough. The invitation is to practice self-awareness, to pay attention to what we say to ourselves and to each other. Regular practicing of mindfulness and meditation assists us to become conscious of our own thoughts. Self-awareness is the foundation for conscious choice. We can make a different choice in our lives. Remember the little boy in the opening story. Leo Babauta says, here's the thing. It's all just a story, isn't it? It's a narrative in our heads that we replay over and over and over until it beats us down into submission. The thoughts aren't true. There's no objective panel of judges in the sky who have judged us unworthy. We just made up the story and we picked out evidence to match the narrative. When someone says something remotely critical, we take it to heart and we offer it up as yet one more bit of proof that we're not good enough. Now, I'm not saying that the emotional and physical abuse that that little boy went through wasn't real, but what I am saying is that the voiceover, what he told himself about that experience, about growing up that way, wasn't real. It wasn't real. It wasn't the truth of who he is. And the good news is that we can choose a different narrative. We can tell a different story about ourselves and the lives and the childhood that we grew up in. The second idea is to bring light to the shadows. Learning what shame and unworthiness are and what triggers them for us, we will be able to recognize them and to move through them. Awareness. Awareness, awareness, awareness. Our awareness of these feelings can become a guide that actually points us to the areas in our life in which we do not yet love or accept ourselves. It is in those areas that we're seeking our worth through the approval of other people. Knowing what triggers our shame can assist us to navigate those times when we really would rather hang our head down. Taking an inventory of our triggers assists us to become familiar with them, to really bring awareness to them so that we can make a choice about how we respond rather than just going into some automatic pilot way of being. Right? We can make a choice of how we're going to respond, and discovering how shame manifests within each of us allows us to identify that and then to address it. It includes identifying and really evaluating the root cause of our shame or of our unworthiness. Does our shame come from, not meeting societal expectations? Or does it come from the opinion of the loved ones in our lives? Or does it come from our own expectations that we have for ourselves? Subconscious programs, those programs that run automatically within us, are really created when a series of strong beliefs are supported in our everyday lives. Strong beliefs that we experience through very emotional times and that are perpetuated time after time after time again. If the program goes unquestioned, if those programs that we've created in our minds, in our thoughts, go unquestioned, which most of them do, then they're going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. And the way to turn off a program is to claim our power over it. Who we are is divinity. There's nothing more powerful than who we are at our very core. No matter how powerful something may seem, the bottom line is that we have the power to change anything and everything that we want to change in our lives. Exploring shame and talking about it, because when we don't talk about it is when that secret runs rampant. So exploring our shame and talking about it can assist us to reclaim our power. Rather than shame driving us, we can choose to be brave. The third idea is to claim our worthiness, right? In Science of Mind, one of the primary principles is that we are spiritual beings who have been made in the image and likeness of the thing itself. We've been made in the image and likeness of God. Spirit has made us out of itself, which speaks to our inherent worth as a living being. Who can argue with that? Our very life is the life of God, and we are already whole, perfect, and complete. There was nothing lacking within us when God created us and declared all of its creations to be good. There was nothing lacking within us when we arrived on the physical plane as newborn babies. And there is nothing, absolutely nothing lacking in us right now. There's an anonymous quote that says, "When you know your worth, no one can make you feel worthless." No one. Our worth is not dependent on what we have done or who we are in the world of form. It is based on who and what we are at our very core, divine emanations of the divine. Worth cannot be proven or disproven because it exists at the center of our being. And there is nothing that we can do or not do in order to become more worthy or less worthy than we intrinsically are. Our worth is unconditional and it is guaranteed. The mere act of trying to prove our worth keeps us in a space of unworthiness, because the quest to prove our worth, we must first believe that we're unworthy. It is done unto us as we believe. It's like chasing a carrot on a stick and never, ever catching it. In attempting to prove our worth, we are really running from our fear of unworthiness, and this keeps us trapped in the trance. True fulfillment comes only when we awaken out of the dream of separation. We are not separated from our divinity. We are not separated from life. We are not separated from each other. When we awaken to our true nature as the unboundlessness of being, we will know beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is no one to judge us as worthy or unworthy. It has always and will always be only ourselves judging ourselves. Good news is that's something we can do something about. Remembering and accepting our own unconditional worth will keep us from seeking it from someone else. It will allow us to connect to who we really are, and it allows us to be open to our inner guidance. Thank you. Amen. My talk title. Is it worrisome that I'm just now getting to the talk title? So my talk title is "No Approval Needed." And I was really called to bring this conversation up. And it's from one of the most inspirational books that I've recently read, is called Untamed. And it's written by a woman named Glennon Doyle. And I don't know if anybody is familiar with her story, but it's what really came up for me in light of this talk title. And she left a long-term marriage to a man who was he had multiple indiscretions, shall we say. She herself later fell in love with a woman, and they married. The woman that she married is the soccer star Abby Wambach. Pursuing Abby was really not a question of choosing this person over staying in her long-term marriage. It was a matter of being true to herself. A matter of being true to herself, casting off the public mask that she had worn all of those years and being who she really was. Now, in a chapter in that book called Permission Slips, she tells the reader that a fundamentalist Christian organization recently announced that she was excommunicated from the evangelical church because of her choices. Now, apparently, she was talking to a friend of hers about this, and the friend said, "It's so awful. Why can't they understand that you were born this way? You can't help it. How cruel to punish you for something you can't even change. Now, the really interesting thing is that Glennon explained that she thought about this, and what she really came to understand was that she believes that sometimes we say things that we believe are loving, but actually reveal our conditioning. She believes that things that we can't help are the things that we would change if we could change them. Do you hear that? So, continuing on in that chapter called Permission Slips, she says, what I want to say is, what if I wasn't born this way at all? What if I married Abby not just because I'm gay, but because I'm smart? What if I did choose my sexuality and my marriage, and they are simply the truest, wisest, most beautiful, most faithful, most divine decisions I have ever made in my entire life? What if I have come to see same gender love as a really solid choice? Just a brilliant idea. Something that I would highly recommend. And what if I demand freedom not because I was born this way and can't help it, but because I can do whatever I choose to do with my love and my body from year to year, moment to moment, because I'm a grown woman who doesn't need any excuses to live however I want to live and to love whomever I want to love. What if I don't need your permission slip because I'm already free? So, right? I mean, the quote is essentially about same gender love, and it's about Glennon Doyle, and it's about Abby Wambach. But the truth is that it could be about anything or anyone. What if I don't need your permission slip because I'm already free? To live authentically, we must be willing to give up certain things like tradition. We must be willing to give up race consciousness ideas of what is normal for any of us. To give up what others want or believe that we should do or be. The bottom line is that we are all already free. We don't need permission slips from anyone. We do not need anyone's approval. We are already whole, perfect, and complete. It's our birthright. The invitation is to step powerfully into living our lives authentically, to be who we really are, and to live our lives out loud without any reservation. And so it is. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. So I just invite us to turn within, to allow ourselves to turn to the center of our being, that space and place so beautifully described by Petra in our invocation, to close our outer eyes, turn away from the world of form and its demands and its ideas and its expectations, and turn our attention inward to the center of our being, to that light of the divine, that Christ consciousness within us, to know that it is the truth of who we are, each and every single one of us, with absolutely no exception. We are all divine emanations of the One, here to be God's ambassadors on the planet, here to bring forward its love, its joy, its peace, its creativity, its abundance, its wisdom, its freedom in our own particular and individualized way. That if we don't do so, that particular part of the tapestry, that particular puzzle piece will not be represented, and a piece of beauty will not be let loose on the planet. I'm so grateful to know this truth about who and what we are, and about our ability to step powerfully into recognizing that, to step powerfully into a life that we live from that space, letting loose any ideas of unworthiness or shame that have followed us for perhaps a long period of time, to know that we can choose again, that we can decide something different for ourselves, that we can tell a different narrative, a different story about who we are and about the life that we want to live, knowing that we can create it because we have choice, because we are creative beings imbued with that ability to create when we arrived on the planet. There can be no separation between us and our divinity. And I'm so grateful to know this truth and to speak these words. So grateful for the power of prayer, knowing that these words are loosed into a law that only ever says yes, that my words are clothed in form even as they are spoken. And so I speak them and release them into that law, letting go and letting God be God. I invite each of us to anchor this prayer for ourselves, for each other, for our community, and for the world, simply by saying, and so it is, and so it is. Amen. Amen. Thank you all so very much. It is now time for our conscious giving. And the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living is really sustained by the giving of our time, talent, and treasure. This is the time every week when we offer financial support to assist this community to continue to be a beacon of light and warmth for ourselves and for each other. Together, we affirm the truth that this offering lifts this spiritual community, prospers the one giving, and adds to the energy of sufficiency on the planet. There are several ways that you can give, and they're on your screens at home or here in our sanctuary. Visit our website at www.triangle.csl.org. You can text the word give using the following number, 919-230-8445, or you can mail your gift to our office. The address is P.O. Box 4062, Cary, North Carolina, 27519. I invite you now to take your gift and place it and your hand over your heart with an intention for yourselves or for the community. And we'll say our offering affirmation in a call and response. I live in an abundant universe that blesses and prospers my life. I give with gratitude, knowing that God is my source. And so it is. Amen. Thank you. As the baskets are being passed, let's please welcome back to our stage the amazing Miles and Letha Costin.
Oh, he's not ready yet. Wait for just a minute. Awesome, awesome lesson, Dusty. Thank you. Whew.
Ready now.
Okay.
Almost. Nothing in nature is pure black and white. Shadows and shades take shape in the light. matter how real this real world seems, it's an illusion in this river of dreams. River of dreams calling me, carry me back and lull me to sleep. Your wandering waters and mysteries deep. Oh, river of dreams. Oh, river of dreams. Well, we reach for the truth and strive to be right. Try to stay clean on the land and the sky. As it unfolds in life's grand schemes, it all seems to fit in this river of dreams. River of dreams calling me, carry me back from loneliness sleep. Your wandering waters, mysteries deep. Oh, river of dreams. Oh, river of dreams. When your ride could be smooth and peaceful pools, look over the rocks on a ship of fools. I wanna know just what it all means before I wake up on this river of dreams. River of dreams calling me, carry me back to loneliness sleep. You wandering waters and mysteries deep. Oh, river of dreams. River of dreams calling me, carry me back and lull me to sleep. You wandering waters and mysteries deep. Oh, river of dreams. Oh, river of dreams. Oh, river of dreams. Oh, river of dreams.
If anyone would like prayer, please go to our website at trianglecsl.org. On the homepage, there's a button in the upper right-hand corner. Click on that button and fill in the request form. We will get that prayer and send it out to the ministers and practitioners. If anyone would like to dedicate a flower dedication to anyone for anything, please contact Heather Abbott at information@trianglecsl.org or Reverend Dusty at dustyrippelmeyer@yahoo.com. Wednesday, March 29th, we will culminate our monthly on authenticity with a movie night. We will be showing the indie movie called Chef. It stars Robert Downey Jr., Sofia Vergara, and John Leguizamo, Scarlett Johansson, and Dustin Hoffman. And totally worth it for the cast alone. I'm great at pronunciation, by the way, as I'm sure you can tell. But you want to join us for the powerful conversation sure to follow. The movie will be shown at 7 at the Lodge at Crossroads, 200 Brisbane Woods Way in Cary, North Carolina. We will be there at 6:30 to settle in and share snacks. Please bring a snack to share if you're called to do so. Speaking of Wednesday, please consider joining us for our Wednesday evening service on Zoom. The theme for the year is Living Out Loud, and the theme for the month of April is vulnerability. We will be doing a book study of Brené Brown's book, Daring Greatly. Please consider getting the book, reading along with us, and participating in the discussions. Our Wednesday services are a midweek pick-me-up and reminder of our spiritual practices and who we really are, and can be a powerful way to shape our lives. Join us for our annual meditation retreat from Friday, 5 o'clock, June 9th, through 3 o'clock Sunday afternoon from June 11th. The retreat will be held at St. Francis Spring Prayer Center in Stonesville, North Carolina. We have space for the first 35 people. To register, you can register with a $50 deposit through our website or in the bookstore. The cost is $300 for a double room and $400 for a single room. This includes room and board and the retreat itself. Please consider treating yourself to this very sacred and loving weekend. In the comfort of your own homes and here, please stand for our March affirmation. This is a call and response, and repeat it with meaning. March affirmation. In order to love and accept myself exactly as I am, I do the inner work to discover who that is. In order to love and accept myself exactly as I am, do the inner work to discover who that is. Doing so allows me to see beyond my mask to my real self. Doing so allows me to see beyond my mask to my real self. That sounds great too. Being in a spiritual community with like-minded people supports my journey of cultivating authenticity. Being in a spiritual community with like-minded people supports my journey of cultivating authenticity. They create a loving space for me to powerfully step into the courage I need to be vulnerable. They create a loving space for me to powerfully step into the courage I need to be vulnerable. I have the courage to do so and to boldly let my light shine. I have the courage to do so and boldly let my light shine. When I am vulnerable with others, I invite others to be vulnerable with me. When I am vulnerable with others, I am inviting them to be vulnerable with me. Authenticity is a practice, and I choose to begin today. Authenticity is a practice, and I choose to begin today. I am worthy, I am loved, I am enough. I am worthy, I am loved, I am enough. And so it is. Please be seated. And so once again, so grateful for understanding the truth from this place of oneness and wholeness. We close our outer eyes, knowing that this connection to spirit is always right here, right now. Always turning within. That unconditional love is always just waiting for you, waiting for me to turn within. So from this oneness, from this wholeness, from the truth of worthiness, of authenticity, I'm so grateful for all of us bringing our vulnerable selves right here today and in everything we do. I'm so grateful for Reverend Dusty's channeling of understanding of the truth that we all truly are all worthy, no matter the outside external activities or circumstances. That's the word. That truly we are worthy no matter what we do or what we don't do. We are worthy because of who and what we are, a divine spark. So I'm so grateful for understanding that truth. I'm so grateful for each one of us being here. I'm so grateful for our musical talent today, for sharing their passion, and I'm so grateful for everyone here today. So I anchor the truth that we are all worthy, we are all loved, we are all perfect, whole and complete. And so we anchor this by saying, and so it is.
Thank you all so very much. Let's stand and we'll do Sing Out with Miles and Letha. Thank you for this day.
Here we go. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day. This beautiful my wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful friends. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful friends. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This wonderful, this wonderful, this wonderful day. This wonderful, this wonderful, this wonderful day.
Thank you all so very much. Thank you all so very much for joining us on this wonderful day. Have a great, fabulous week. We'll see you soon. I love you all.